This is the track I absolutely cannot get out of my head. JID is hands down one of my favorite artists to come out in the last 5 years. I love both of the albums he's put out so far, The Never Story and DiCaprio 2. I still listen to both of those records pretty often. I've actually seen JID live 3 times, and he's one of the few artists who reached out and showed appreciation personally. We actually talked a bit after I made a video about him a few years ago. I always feel like he's one of the few artists working today who truly makes good albums full of different sounds and ideas. But we've been waiting 4 years since his last record, without much music in the meantime. And even though I'm a big fan of his music, and I have been for years, I was starting to think, how long can you really wait to drop an album before it's too late? The longer you wait, the more you have to deliver to make the wait count. So does it live up to the hype? Let's talk about the Forever Story. The intro Galaxy reinterprets the same lyrics and melody from the intro on The Never Story 5 years ago, this time with deeper bass and melancholy sounding electric keyboard notes before cutting to a voicemail from someone angrily calling JID fake for not returning to his calls, abruptly taking us out of the melodies and throwing us into the action as the song Radar starts with a vocal sample from the 1971 proto-jazz rap album This Is Madness by The Last Poets, a group of black nationalist poets who got the name of their group from a poem written by Earl Sweatshirt's father in the 1960s.
Radar, sonar, laser beams, jets, tanks, submarines.
And then the song just barrages you with bar after bar of JID reminding you exactly why he's considered a great rapper in the first place. Storytelling, metaphors, wordplay, fast raps that actually sound good and catchy. In the second half of the song, this crashing wall of sound sample hits over and over while JID raps monumental bars about unity and community and the black community with a sense of urgency and severity that makes this one of the best album openers I've ever heard. Dance Now is another banger track that features one of my favorite sample flips from the producer Aviad, turning a traditional Jewish song into one of the best trap beats I've heard in years. I felt for the past few years like most trap songs aren't that replayable anymore, but JID knows exactly how to mix singing, storytelling, and rapping to make a banger song that you can listen to over and over. And again, we're only 2 songs into the record. Both of them have been energetic, over-the-top blockbuster tracks, and it feels like JID is really setting out to prove he's got the same energy he did on his last record 4 years ago. And of course, JID's rapping is fierce. He's got this snarling, biting tone to his words in a way I don't think we've ever heard before from him. Crack Sandwich is another storytelling song full of dense lyrics, clever wordplay, and long verses. This time we hear JID rapping about his family, telling stories from his time growing up in Atlanta, and drawing a picture of what life was like when he was a kid, with 6 siblings in the house all together. Towards the end of the song, the beat switches into this dark, distorted, slowed version. JID takes on this whispering flow as he tells the story of his brother getting accepted into a college in New Orleans on an athletic scholarship, and how he and all his siblings got arrested and put in a police van together during a fight at a nightclub while visiting the city. With lines like beating ass was a family thing, he paints this picture of how even though they ended up in jail for a few hours, it's still a memorable story that makes him appreciate his family bonds for how strong they really are. Honestly, my favorite part of this track is the instrumental. The way Crack Sandwich feels dark and jazzy with the beat switch towards a slower, more ominous sound at the end is absolutely perfect for the cartoonish, over-the-top storytelling JID is doing. Can't Punk Me again features a dark, jazzy beat with increasingly fast drum and double bass grooves. JID is joined by Dr. Dot and Johnny Venus from EarthGang for quick machine gun verses. JID performs the song's chorus in a high-pitched, frantic flow. Overall, it's a pretty good song. I wasn't that excited by EarthGang's verses, but the beat makes up for what they lack. Surround sound I was originally hyped about 9 months ago when it dropped, but at this point it feels more like just another song on the album. Definitely not one of 21 Savage's better verses in the past few years, and it doesn't sound as interesting as when I first heard it. At this point in the album, 5 or 6 songs in, nothing has really stood out to me melodically. The melodies really feel more subtle than the sound of DiCaprio 2 and The Never Story. Not to say I didn't enjoy Radar, Dance Now, and Crack Sandwich. Those are great, entertaining songs, but my favorite JID tracks have always been the ones like Working Out, Hereditary, Ed, Ed and Eddie, and All Bad. Even though he is one of the most talented rappers in the whole genre, I've always liked his R&B songs even more than his rapping. JID has a really good singing voice. His melodies are great. I'm not trying to say I don't like his rapping, but I have always listened to his R&B songs more than the hip-hop ones. But Cody Blue 31 ended up with by far the most beautiful chorus of any song JID has ever made. Cody Blue 31 continues the theme of almost every song on this album not only having a topic, but a specific story from JID's life as well, with the title of the song referencing a friend who died at a young age. He raps with themes of stoicism and salvation through faith as he tackles feelings of loss through lyrics like staring at the city but you trapped in a hole, get your back up off the ropes, keep swinging on. This genuinely may be one of my favorite JID performances of all time. The way the chorus sounds in the beginning combined with his sing rapping on top of the jazzy bass and strings, to my ears this is a perfect track. It feels incredibly emotionally powerful, and after 5 songs of straight bangers, the emotion and melody on this song blew me away. I was just sitting there, my mouth is open in amazement the whole time I heard this. There's just an incredibly powerful wave of feeling the whole way through, and I feel like it's one of the best songs JID has ever recorded. And I literally had the chorus from Cody Blue 31 stuck in my head for like 3 days. I can't say that about many songs that come out these days. Brought in Them with Lil Durk features this incredible jazzy production with a really loud front and center bass guitar. JID raps a story about loyalty to his brothers, his close friends, and his real life family. Lil Durk's verse on this song is amazing too. He obviously sounds way more jazzy and his flow is much different from what I'm used to, just always hearing him on drill beats. He could definitely benefit from branching out on his own songs, and this song really proves he has the skill to do it. This track is a major highlight on the album for me. JID's flow just sounds fun and easy to listen to. He sings the chorus and puts on this really lopsided, kind of choppy delivery during his verses. It just works perfectly on top of the fast-paced string and double jazz bass beat. And then System is another amazing track with a top-notch feature from James Blake, who JID has worked with in the past, and I think they always sound great together. Meanwhile, JID raps a full 3 verses about his relationship with his sister and the ways that their dynamic has changed over the years with everything they've been through, growing up poor, JID becoming famous, and all their experiences with JID being away from home when they lost their grandmother, JID feeling isolated from his family, traveling around the country as a recording artist. Overall, the diary-like feeling of this track is powerful and real in a unique way. I've always loved when artists tell personal stories about their own lives. You know, I think personal histories and stories have been a huge part of music for many years, and I think that's a big part of what makes music timeless. Anyone can reflect the culture of their era, but culture gets old. Putting your actual, literal soul into your music is something only you can do as an artist. When I listen to music from before I was born, I'm not listening to some random pop song from 1965. I'm listening for one of 2 reasons. Either the production sounds really good, or the artist left behind a legacy of character that defines who they were, and it's still interesting to this day. 2 of my favorite artists from the 1960s and 70s are Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, because to me they put tons of their thoughts and life experiences into their songs. Their music still stands as interesting because it's a picture of who they were, not what the world was or what pop culture was. I think JID is one of those rappers working today who will be remembered the same long into the future. These songs are intensely personal, and they're a lot more than just trap songs or just Atlanta songs. These are JID songs. Only he could make this. Only he could tell this story. I love the dark, lackadaisical sound of the beat as Ari Lennox spits a beautiful chorus before JID tells a story about the feeling of arguing with his woman back in Atlanta while he's flying around the world with his mind on 10 million different things at once. The instrumental gives it a really Wild West dive bar feel, while JID raps about feeling stuck in his ways. Stars with Yasiin Bey feature some of the most luxurious, well-engineered production on an already beautiful album with shimmering piano arpeggios, otherworldly strings, flutes in the background. It kind of feels like a Mac Miller song. I didn't love JID's first verse with the pitched up vocals, but when he hits with that second verse, the absolutely wacky flow and rhyme scheme talking about everybody wanna come and hang with the stars, pinky ring, chain bling bling in the cars, definitely one of my favorite moments on the entire album. The whole way through this record, JID's verses feel so real and personal. It feels like he's talking to you, or you're hearing something he wrote in a diary. And I love the way that we hear him questioning his idols in a really personal way. Just in Time with Lil Wayne features a great sample, but a sadly forgettable verse from Lil Wayne. I saw people praising this online, but it just didn't really stick out to me the way I thought it should have. Money features an amazingly catchy sample, but honestly at this point in the album, I had started to feel pretty fatigued by the speed of JID's rapping. I don't really see myself coming back to this song very much, and the same goes for Better Days. JID spends the whole song rapping, and I just don't know what he said on here that he hadn't already said elsewhere on the record. I like the sample on the beat, but Again, the guitar and choir sound is something we've already heard, but the album's closer, Louder 2, starts with a beautiful nocturnal sounding sample that makes it feel like JID is rapping on top of a celestial, starlit sky, before the bass jumps in and he absolutely snaps with some of the best writing I've ever heard from him. But JID's verses are still so fast-paced that it can be hard to follow the story he's telling. The individual songs are fine, but after multiple songs in a row, with him using the same fast rapping flow in each one, I end up feeling mind-flooded and fatigued. Every single time I was sitting down to listen to this album over the past few days, it's kind of hard to get through an entire hour-long experience where most of it is just JID rapping so fast you can barely hear what he's saying after a while. There aren't any bad songs on this album, definitely not. But when I think about the impression this record makes on me as a whole, I just keep coming back to the thought that it could have been much better. First of all, the musicality on here isn't consistently interesting. There are some songs that are really well produced, like Cody Blue 31, Radar, the brother and sister songs, Can't Make You Change, Stars, Louder 2, but there are also a good number of songs that I couldn't even recall the particular sound of just a minute or two after listening to them. They completely vanished from my mind. It's hard to put into words why I didn't end up loving this album. Like I said, it has a lot of interesting, unique qualities to appreciate. This is definitively JID. You wouldn't confuse this for being made by anyone else. It's definitely not a boring sound. And it's got some of the best rap writing you're gonna hear all year. Some of the most detailed stories and personal reflections in music. But I just didn't feel the full emotional weight of the subjects JID is rapping about because most of his performances are so fast, it's hard to follow the story after a few songs in a row. Honestly, I'm expecting a lot of hate for these criticisms because most people I've talked to are saying, yeah, this is a 9 out of 10. This is way better than anything he's ever made before. But honestly, I don't feel like it's that different from his last 2 records. I see it like this. You kind of have to choose if you want the focal point of a song to be the rapping itself or the story. Because again, I just kept feeling like I was losing the story as the album would go on. But there are still some really beautiful moments on the Forever story. I think songs like Radar, Dance Now, Cody Blue 31, the brother and sister songs, Louder 2, they all feature great singing, great rapping, interesting production, and some of JID's best writing performances of his entire career. But will I return to this album and listen to the whole thing in a row when I could listen to DiCaprio 2 or The Never Story? Honestly, probably not. To me, The Never Story feels much more balanced and listenable than the Forever story. Even if this album is full of deeper, more personal writing, it feels overwhelming at times, and I can't see myself returning to listen to the whole thing all in a row. I think it's totally possible that this album is going to grow on me in a big way, and I will end up seeing its brilliance, but right now, it's nothing more than good. Some of these songs are the best I've heard all year, but overall the meaning of its story gets a little bit lost in the busyness and chaos of JID's rapping and all the beat switches that kind of, divide the songs into different parts. I am a huge fan of JID and have literally been a huge fan since the day he dropped his debut album. But ultimately, despite some beautiful production, excellent mixing, amazing lyricism, and really good singing, the Forever story doesn't add up to the sum of its parts. There are too many filler tracks that don't stand out from each other. There are too many parts on this album that I would simply forget if I didn't hear them again. And I think JID uses his fast rapping far too often for the storyline of a deep, personal, journalistic album to feel cohesive. I honestly think he would have created a much better listening experience for a deep storytelling album if it sounded more laid back and relaxed, more cerebral, more easy to listen to. I've been listening to JID since I was 17 years old, and the songs I always go back to this day are the ones that feature him singing or rapping on top of slower, laid back instrumentals. And that is present on this record, but not to the degree I was hoping for. But this album just didn't fully deliver on the parts of his music that I've always loved. Is it full of great storytelling and sounds? Yes. Is JID one of the greatest rappers I've ever heard? One of the best rappers rapping today? Yes. Is the album full of beautiful production and great samples? Yes. But listening to the Forever story front to back a dozen times, its beauty continuously gets lost in the fast rapping and the choppy beat switches, and it just doesn't have the pacing to warrant how long it is. All the right ingredients for a great, amazing album are present on the Forever story. Songs like Radar, Cody Blue 31, Dance Now, the brother and sister songs, Can't Make You Change, and Louder 2, excellent tracks, but everything else just wasn't really for me. In terms of where it stands for JID's album so far, I think The Never Story is still his best work. I get why people are saying this is so good. I agree. The best songs on this album feel like they're from a 9 out of 10 near perfect album. But for me, the end result of this hour-long project feels more like a 6.5 out of 10 than anything else. Even after listening to it for the past week, I don't really feel like I've uncovered more and more meaning. And yes, I will definitely revisit the Forever story, but for now, it isn't for me. Solid 6.5 out of 10. I'm Philip, this is Volksgeist. Thank you for watching. By the way, if you made it to the end of the video, I figure now is a good time to talk about a new project. I've been uploading vlogs on my second channel for a while now, but I'm increasing the upload frequency lately, and I'm honestly really proud of the videos I'm making over there. I'm talking about music, life, culture, politics, philosophy, all sorts of annoying, nerdy things that make me not fun to be around. But I think a lot of you watching this would enjoy that as well, so feel free to go check that out. I would really appreciate more subscriptions. I'm about to hit 6,000 on that channel. I've also been posting more videos to Instagram and TikTok lately, so the links to those are down below in the description and the comments. Again, I don't normally promote myself, but you know, all right, I'll see you guys later.